All righty. Welcome. We're going to go over Leadership Education 1, Chapter 6, Lesson 3 and 4. This will be a review for our test next week. This is week 12. Next week will be week 13. Basically, we're going over the Constitution, reviewing the Constitution of the United States, as well as the articles and the amendments. So I need you guys to sing out. We're going to be going specifically over the vocabulary and the learn about sections. And should I push this back so everybody can see you guys talk? Maybe I should do that. No, you don't like to have your face in the picture? All right, well, I'll have my casual face in the picture here. All right, everybody please turn to page 299 in your book, the Constitution of the United States. What I'm reviewing is on the test, okay? And again, we don't play much secrets here. First of all, who interprets the Constitution and tells you what it means?
Supreme Court judges.
That was exactly right. That was really, really good. Exactly right. So again, I'm telling you, in any high school, college class, the Constitution is what the United States Supreme Court says it is today, because it can change tomorrow. Yes, sir?
Well, also depending on if it's a conservative or, activist. Conservative or activist look at it, depending on the judge, sir.
It depends on today, because it can change tomorrow. You're exactly right. People vote, of course, in what beliefs they have. And I'm telling you, the hot spot now as far as gun control, which is when they talk about, you got to keep my gun control, a right of a citizen to bear arms. Where is that in the Constitution, guys?
Second Amendment.
Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to security of a free state and the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And the exact example that I gave you as far as what does the Constitution mean is that for 200 years, that meant, when they said the people, that meant the people, plural, the United States people, the citizens of America. When you're in the militia, you can keep and bear arms, right? Talks about a militia. And for 200 years, the Constitution was interpreted by the Supreme Court as that was a collective right. It was not an individual right. It doesn't say in there that any peoples, individual people have the right to bear arms. But guess what? We had a Supreme Court decision, is what the call is, who has interpreted that as an individual right to bear arms. And right now, today, we're having an argument about gun control. And the mantra is, you're not going to infringe on my Second Amendment rights. That's what. How many times we hear that all the time? My Second Amendment rights. Well, you know what? The way I read it, if I was on the Supreme Court, your Second Amendment right is you can join the militia, and you can join the Air National Guard, and you can join the Army. You have all the bullets and guns you want. But it doesn't say that an individual person has the right to keep and bear arms, the way I read it. But guess what? Does it matter what I say? Who determines what the Constitution means? The Supreme Court judges on that day, and it will change. So this is an exact example of how it has changed, an interpretation of it. Okay, vocabulary, preamble. What is the preamble to the Constitution? What does that mean? The second article, the preamble, is the... Go to page 321, guys, 321. It talks about the Constitution has three parts. The preamble is what? The first part, yes.
7 articles and the famous sentence, we the people.
It is the introduction. You're exactly right. This states the goals and purposes of the government. The preamble, we the people of the United States. And again, they wrote it at the same time. We the people, right? It didn't say we the people, that means one person needs... this is another argument that the original Second Amendment meant the people, everybody together. It didn't mean an individual right. We don't have an individual right to bear arms. It's not right here as I see it. It's we the people. But it has been changed and different. Okay, what is let's see, what is an article? What is an article? What does that mean? No, an article of the Constitution. What does that mean? On page 322, what is an article?
It explains how the government is to work. The first 3 articles describe the powers and responsibilities of each branch of government. In turn, the remaining articles address more general matters.
There you go. And articles are sort of like parts of the original Constitution. And when they wrote it, those articles are fixed. And it's not like you take them out. You can change them, but you cannot take them out. What is the Bill of Rights? Vocabulary. What's a Bill of Rights? First 10 amendments. So the Constitution was signed in what date? You probably need to know that. What year? 1787. When was the Declaration of Independence? What year was that?
1776.
Ding, 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 ding. Okay, think about this. 1776. We fought the Revolutionary War. We went through some other stages of governmental development, which we don't need to get in here. But then, 21 years later? I mean, that's a long time. That's a lifetime of kids, right? Older than you guys. 21 years later, we finally have the Constitution signed. And then, as soon as they signed it, they wanted to change it, right? And they wanted to actually go through it. And what happened was they started the Bill of Rights, which was the first 10 amendments. When was the Bill of Rights actually approved?
1791.
91, 4 years later. Everybody turn to page 321. And Jackson, why don't you read about Patrick Henry, Americans in Action regarding the Bill of Rights.
Throughout his remarkable career, Patrick Henry stood out as a supporter of the colonists and their rights. At the First Continental Congress in 1774, he energetically spoke for measures that assumed the unity of the colonies. At the same time, he was against a strong central government. Though selected to be a delegate, he refused to attend sessions in 1787 and 1788 while the Constitution was being drafted. Henry was perhaps the most famous anti-federalist to speak against ratification of the Constitution. With the addition of the Bill of Rights, however, Henry embraced the Constitution. As a Federalist, Henry won a seat in the Virginia legislature. He died before he could assume his post.
What does the term Federalist mean? Ooh. Republican, Democrat, Federalist. What's a Federalist mean?
They love the government.
They love the central government. So a Federalist, he started off as an anti-Federalist. He believed in states' rights. And he wasn't going to give up the states' rights to the big government. But then with, what did he say? With the Bill of Rights, he embraced the Constitution. He decided that he was going to be a Federalist. And oh, by the way, turned into a politician, ran and won. Yes, sir.
Does it have anything to do with the Articles of Confederation, sir?
No, that was before the Constitution. That was between the Declaration of Independence, get us through the war, win. Articles of Confederation, they didn't work because they didn't have a strong central government. This has the strong central government. So it's if he was a Federalist, and that was really a political party. So, look at there, page 323. You can actually see the difference between the Constitution and the Articles of Confederation. And there was a lot of differences there. The Articles of Confederation had one house. The Constitution has two houses. Articles of Confederation had no executive branch. There was no president. And they had no judiciary branch. So again, it was a start, but it wasn't the end. Thank goodness for us. So the Constitution replaced a weak central government with a strong government, as well as the three parts of the government which ended up separating our powers and having what's called the checks and balances. Okay, so we go through the articles. All the different articles in the Bill of Rights are now the amendments to the Constitution. What is an income tax, and when did that come about?
It's a tax on what people earn.
Okay.
And In 1913.
1913, just prior to World War I, right? Actually, today, in my world history class, my AS 300 class, we're talking about World War I. And specifically, you realize when World War I happened, America had never been in such a huge war, and actually sent off all the males to Europe. I mean, millions of American males went to Europe. And what did the females have to do? Stay here and do all the males' work. Meaning, farming.
Betty the Ripper?
Yes, building bombs. I mean, literally. Welders, cooks, farmers, office people. Women did all this work that guys had traditionally done, teachers. And, of course, that was in World War I. Don't you know it made women mad? Did women vote during World War I?
Nope.
No. So that made them mad. And doggone right, they should make them mad. And so that is one of the big impetuses for women to vote, was that they did everything men did. They couldn't even vote. And so soon after, I think it was 1919, or was it 1920, we had the amendment that allowed women to vote. And it was probably a direct result of World War I. All righty, Lesson 4, Bill of Rights, page 328. Let's just go through and hit all the blue buttons there. Civil liberties. What is the civil liberties? The Bill of Rights protects our civil liberties, page 328. What is that?
We have to think and act without government interference or fear of unfair treatment.
We do not have to worry about freedom of speech, religion, press, assembly, freedom to petition the government. Those are our civil liberties. Next line. Let's go down the line. Trevor, what is censorship? Censorship.
Banning printed materials or films just because they contain alarming or offensive ideas.
So I think all this horrible stuff is, I think naked pictures of men and women and pornography is horrible. Can I ban that because I just don't like it?
Nope.
In America, you cannot. Other countries, you can. Yes, sir.
So is that why it didn't play a role in the big pornography trial?
They lost. I'm telling you, America lost. Pornography won. It's a fact.
So
Because of the First Amendment.
Right here. Censorship, First Amendment. You can argue that. That's exactly right. And guess what? Who determines this? Does Congress determine this or the President?
The Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court. How they interpret it. In 2 years, they could have another Supreme Court decision, and they could go, yes, get rid of all pornography. We're going to believe in censorship. But I don't think it'll happen. All right, petition, 330. What does petition mean? I get to petition my government.
It's a formal request.
A formal request. Yes, we can do that. In other countries, China, you cannot do that.
They'll shoot you again.
They will shoot you. You cannot formally petition the government. Slander, page 331. What is that? Slander, Jackson.
If the lies are spoken.
Slander. You cannot spread such lies. What is libel?
It's if the lines are
Okay, so the News and Courier came out with a big presentation that says Colonel Peoples stole money from the high school, is going to be thrown in jail. It's not true. I could sue them for libel. Okay? That happens all the time. All right? Those are limits to the First Amendment. What is a search warrant? Page 332.
court order allowing law enforcement officers to search homes or take specific items as evidence.
We talked about that. Remember, that's now being expanded to the internet or questioned with the online technology. Does the government have to have a search warrant to track you on a GPS and see where you are, even though you're a bad guy? I don't know. Do they have to have a search warrant? Matter of fact, this happened in this town. Adults who have pornography, child pornography, which has been disallowed and is against the law, do they have to have a search warrant to search your computer? You better believe they do. And if they catch you, you're put under the jail. Indictment, Fifth Amendment. What does an indictment mean?
It's a formal charge.
Indictment, sir.
I'm sorry, indictment, you're right. And it's a formal charge, and it has to be determined by the grand jury. What's a grand jury? Joe, what's a grand jury?
A group of citizens who make the indictment and review the evidence against the accused.
Right. You see it on the police shows on TV that says you go through a grand jury to see if there's enough evidence to indict somebody. Double jeopardy. We talked about that. Ashton, what's double jeopardy?
Since this means that the people who are accused of a crime and judged not guilty may not be put on trial again for this crime.
Who's a famous football player who's found innocent? O.J. Simpson. He was innocent of murder. So could he ever be charged again? No. So there you go. Double jeopardy. Yes, sir.
Ever seen the movie Double Jeopardy?
No, I have not.
It talks about, it's actually a story about a woman who was framed for the murder of her husband, but she finds out later that he staged his own death and he didn't actually die. So she went on like a vengeance quest to go and find him and kill him again, because technically she couldn't go to jail again. It was really
pretty neat.
Interesting, actually. That's true.
All right, what is due process, guys? Due process. Bean, what's due process? Top of 334.
Due process means following established legal procedures.
Correct. We can't just invent how we're going to get in trouble with people, even though they may be guilty. We have to go through certain procedures. Eminent domain. What is that here, Steve, on top of page 334?
Eminent domain is the right of the government to take private property, usually land, for public use.
Do we ever worry about that now? Do we do that now? Happens all the time. How do we expand Williamson Valley Road? When we go from a 2-lane to a 4-lane, where do we get the property from? Your property. Your property. You shave it off. And we say, we're going to take off 20 feet of your property. You go, no, 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 no. Are you going to win?
No.
No. And so that's exactly what they're doing in Williamson Valley Road. They expand these roads. They take 20 feet of your property. Doesn't matter where your house is seated. So they pay you for it. But it's called eminent domain.
Under the Fifth Amendment, they have to pay you a fair price for that.
True, and of course there's a lot of argument about what's a fair price, too. But that happens. That happens all the time for public use. Okay, what else? Keep on going down. A bail. What is a bail? Jackson, 334.
Bail is a sum of money used as a security deposit.
Exactly. Let's get you out of jail. Bail. 338. What's a federalist? We actually talked about the Federalists. Federalists and federalism. Joey.
People who like a central government.
Central government, exactly. What about suffrage? We talked about it's a good word. What is suffrage? Ashland.
Right to vote.
Yay, it's the right for anybody's right to vote, right? So you can have African American suffrage, or white boy suffrage, or female suffrage, or Chinese suffrage. All righty, poll tax 341.
And you have to pay a sum of money to vote.
Exactly. In general, as southern states, in general, it was people trying to keep the African Americans, the blacks, from vote, and it was completely illegal, and it was turned over. Is that about it? Oops, segregation, 342. Discrimination. How about discrimination? What is that?
Unfair treatment based on the prejudice against a certain group.
Exactly. So discrimination could be because you have black hair or blue eyes. Heck, Hitler. He believed in the Aryan race. If you weren't blonde, blue eyes, you were gone. He killed you. Boom, gone. So, yeah, you guys have a bad day. Don't go hang out with Hitler. That's not good. Segregation. What is segregation, gentlemen?
The social segregation, or the separation of races.
Did that ever happen in America?
Yes.
They say that the most segregated hour in America is which hour? You ever heard of this? Of course you haven't, because there's no blacks or Hispanics here, relatively speaking. But the most segregated hour in America is Sunday morning, 11 o'clock. Because in general, races go to religions that they are familiar with and comfortable with, and it's the most segregated hour. How many blacks are in your white Lutheran church or a white Mormon church? They have different beliefs. Hindus, Chinese, and that's the most segregated hour. It's a culturally segregated thing. All right, civil rights. African Americans, more than 100 years after the 13th Amendment, it took African Americans civil rights. What does civil rights mean?
Rights of full citizenship and equality under the
Exactly. And we are still have complete civil rights, but we are working on affirmative action. 343. What does affirmative action mean, Alex?
Programs encourage the hiring and promoting of minorities and women in fields that were traditionally closed to them.
It is a fact, and that's part of America. Love it or leave it. 1978, I had higher scores than my good friend, and she was a female, and she became a presidential scholar, and I was not from South Carolina because she was female, but that's it. All right, test next week, guys. Stand up, dismiss us, and let's get out of here, please.
Room, Hudson, boom. Dismiss. Go do great.